you know?
Right, yeah, Ben Tribbett posted something like that the other day for himself.
Yeah, and it's like, I was really tempted to do it, but then I was like, no, I don't need to give all my Facebook data to another bunch of assholes. I mean, it's like, bad enough that I'm putting it out there. But anyway, I think that the more you can talk to people who have first-hand experience, and like, that is, you know, I think one of the strengths of worked to make it, like our natural impulse at first was to write it like a graduate student paper. Make a point, prove the point. And then we were like, wait a minute, tell stories.
Yeah, actually, my first impulse was going to be to tell the story of the web campaign. And then we broadened it out. So, no, my first impulse was actually to tell a story.
Yeah, but when you wrote it, though, it came out sounding more like a graduate paper because that's what you'd written. And then at the cabin, we kind of blew that up and pushed it more towards stories. And so just keep that in focus. Like, anecdotes are your friend.
Right. Well, I think there are a lot of good stories. I mean, like Pizzagate, you could just have a whole, half a chapter. Not a chapter, but,
Yeah, but I think the more you can get people who are actually affected, like vote atomic ping pong.
Right.
Right. Do some interviews with some of those people. And,
right. Or how about the UVA? How about that UVA thing, the Rolling Stone?
Oh, yes. That's a classic example. You've got to talk about that one.
That's a great one, huh? Because, I mean, that was, that wasn't fake. Well, what the fuck was that?
That was totally fake news. That was the definition of fake news.
No, because the journalist didn't want to create fake news, but she got suckered or drawn into...
She had a story she wanted to tell.
She had an agenda, no doubt, and that fit into her paradigm, but I don't think she was like, I am going to create totally... No, she got burned, but she got burned because she had bad intentions. They're not bad intentions. No, not bad at all.
Set on proving her point.
Right. She wanted to get this story. She felt like, but it wasn't bad intentions at all. It was to show that there was rape culture on campuses.
Well, yeah, but I mean, bad intentions in the sense that she wasn't letting the facts drive her conclusion. She was coming to the story with a conclusion, looking to find an example of it.
Right, I agree with the latter thing you just said. I think she was coming with a conclusion, and she was very much looking for facts to but I think the real, and she's part of the problem, no doubt. But the woman, the supposed victim, Jackie, whatever, she really, that is her fault to a large extent. I mean,
well, yeah, but if you're a reporter, you're supposed to.
I know. I'm not absolving her, but I'm just saying, Jackie, though, that's crazy. But anyway, so it's not exactly fake news, but that's what I'm saying. It's not.
I think I'm glad you brought that on because I think that's exactly one. And like do you remember Ali Sabina? I don't know if you ever dealt with her. She was like a DC political person around. And I was Facebook friends with her, and I ended up, I posted that story when it came out, but then, I posted some of the people that were, questioning it, it started to look really rotten pretty fast, and she just hit me with all this, you just don't want to believe that fat boys are rapists, and I'm like, what?
Yeah, it was really, at the beginning, there was a feeding frenzy at the beginning. Yeah. Everyone, it wasn't just the reporter. I mean, the vast majority of people...
everything I believe about fraternities.
Exactly, me too.
Fuckers, they are rapists.
Right, I know. So I'm like, and almost everyone...
When I start questioning the story, I get hit with it as if I'm some frat boy.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, fuck you.
Well, plus you're a guy.
The backseat on who hates frats to anybody.
Plus, you're a male. You're male. I mean, if you're white and you criticize a minority, you're in deep. You're really. I've seen a lot of progressives, Dante Atkins and myself, and a lot of people who get accused of being racist for not doing anything. We didn't do anything. But if you criticize an African American who's running for a political office or is an elected official because they're corrupt or whatever. I mean, I would criticize I've criticized a million white people for shit over. But if you, but you're opening yourself up there to, or if you don't support them for political office and you support a white opponent, let's say.
Or the nightmare of the 2008 primary, which basically devolved into the N-word versus the C-word. I mean, it was just ridiculous. There's plenty to hate about both Obama and Clinton. You don't have to be a racist to not like Obama, and you certainly don't have to be a sexist to not like Clinton. And you don't even, like, who cares about liking candidates? I'm about, like, are they going to work in my interest, you know? But people get so personalized, and they definitely make it about, you know, and people like Dow, to me, deliberately manipulate those things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, he's totally in Hillary's, I don't know what you want to say.
He's paid operative.
Yeah, you know? I guess. So, you know, and then, yeah, so... Anyway, I guess, and then I guess there are academics too, potentially, like Jay Rosen and others, maybe, to try to, I don't know if they'd talk or not, but
you don't have to do an interview with Jay Rosen because he's talked so much.
I know, that's the thing. Well, but still, I mean, you could interview and get something.
Yeah, but I mean, I would like to interview people who've had first-hand experience, and one of the reasons I'm recommending looking into the roots of Alex Jones and the 90s conspiracy theories where Pizzagate came out of is because I bet you can find some people with some real first-hand stories that nobody else has gotten.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, having something, because I think, Netroots Rising, nobody else really had a lot of that stuff. I mean, so...
There's a guy, James Moore, he wrote Bush's Brain. But he has a great article, I think it was in Texas Monthly, about the cameraman who shot the shootout between the ATF and the Branch Davidians, and what happened to those guys, because they basically got blackballed out of the media business.
Wow.
Yeah, because nobody really wanted to report the story, which was like, you know, you could have arrested David Koresh at the garage he worked at. You know, like, he was, or you could have waited for him at the pub where he hung out every Wednesday night. You know, like, there were all kinds of ways to get David Koresh without having a shootout and without endangering all those children.
Yeah, although I gotta say, I love the outrage over that one, but all these black people who get shot every fucking day, like, and the people are like, whatever. I mean, you know.
I mean, that's a classic. I mean, the Move, you know, situation in Philadelphia, you know, I mean, and on and on. I mean, you know, like, that's a classic thing, but...
I mean, this Pizzagate guy, he was a white guy from North Carolina. If that guy had... And they immediately was like, there's no sign this is terrorism, and he was taken without incident. He wasn't shot or anything.
Yeah, if he'd been black, he would have been gunned down.
If he were Muslim, it would have been absolutely terrorism, is highly suspected, and he probably would have been gunned down, as you say.
Our definition of terrorism is so crazy, because modern terrorism was basically invented by the fucking Klan during Reconstruction, and if you don't want to define it there, then it's Michael Collins and the IRA in Ireland, you know? That's where Trotsky and Lenin learned most of their shit.
Right, well, I mean, Menachem Begin and Yitzhak Shamir weren't any slouches either, you know?
No, exactly. You know, that's another thing.
Blowing up the King David Hotel and stuff, you know?
Yeah, and that's another one, to me, a classic example of inversion. Like, rabbinical Judaism is this, like, international conscience for several hundred years.
Right.
Suddenly Zionism comes in the scene, and now Israel then becomes, you know, you get people like Lieberman over there.
Well, yeah, it's not Zionism. Remember, Zionism was split between revisionist Zionism and labor Zionism, and very, very different. The revisionists weren't in power until after the Yom Kippur War, and in 1977 Begin came to power, and since then, but it was the rise of Sephardic Jews, and also the influx of former Soviet Jews who were a lot of hard asses, and
some of them aren't even Jewish.
Some of them aren't even Jewish, and then the rise also, ultra-Orthodox breed like fucking rabbits. And Israel's changed. I mean, it's not the same country as a bunch. When it started, it was a bunch of like labor kibbutznik types socialists who came from Eastern Europe, and it was all white, and like a lot of socialist types and peaceniks from Eastern Europe who came there, and they had idealistic. And it's totally different today. It's a totally different...
It's completely different. And it's so sad.
But it's not Zionism per se. I mean, it's what the labor...
I mean, that's like a deeper, more philosophical argument, like whether or not having a country with interests
I mean, the girl I dated when I was in Israel was in Hashomer Hatzair, which originally was Marxist. They were totally for peace with the Arabs, cooperation.
Yeah.
That was part of the original settlers of Israel, the Hashomer Hatzair people, and they were part of the labor coalitions, for years. But yeah, that those people were for they weren't for coming in and like booting out the Arabs or whatever, and it wasn't like that at all. I mean,
but I don't know. There's an argument to me. I can't remember.
So anyway, but that's a whole other discussion.
But just that the moral authority of the diaspora was because it was a diaspora, and as soon as you had a country that superseded the diaspora, that country had interest.
The moral authority was that, I think, to some extent, the Holocaust, Jews were persecuted, and they were the victims.
Jews were the national or an international conscience before the Holocaust.
Right. But I mean, if you're victims, like it's much easier to be the conscience or whatever you want to say. Once you have a military, once you have nuclear weapons, once you're oppressing another people, whatever the fuck.
Power.
Yeah, then you're not. It's hard to see you as the scrappy underdog, and and everyone roots for.
People that have an agenda and that are power seeking.
Right, but it's always an oversimplification either way. I mean, like before the '67 war, it's not like Jews were powerless, and it wasn't like they were all powerful after '67. But and they weren't perfect people. I mean, people are people, for God's sake.
Yeah, people are people. It's just like if you research the Comanche Indian, oh my God,
The Native Americans used to fucking war with each other all the time. Not to say that justifies us coming in and committing genocide.
I mean, you would not want to be a neighbor of the Comanches. I mean, they were the worst possible opponent you could have.
Right. And the Incas. I mean, we traveled in Latin America, and we saw the Mayan Empire and the Inca Empire and all this. Those people were. I mean, the Mayans used to sacrifice like, oh my God. I mean.
Oh yeah, and the Inca. I mean, we have oral histories of the formation of the Inca Empire and the transition from hunter-gatherer to priest-controlled agriculture society. Mm-hmm. That was not a pleasant transition.
No.
And a lot of evil went down. It's about control and power.
Right, it always is for people, and once you're settled and you have central government and all that, I mean, all this stuff just inevitably starts to happen. Now, there are different details in every case, and as time goes by, we've had more and more technology and more power in every area, military, communications, everything.
Yeah, and now. I just think the volume of information that's coming at people is more than we can process.
Right. And that's an important part of this book, too, in a way. I think there's so much information that people just sort of throw up their hands and kind of give up and say, you know what? Yeah, there's no way I can possibly process all this, so I'm just going to go with this narrative. I've picked this narrative, I'm sticking with it, and that's the end of the story.
Yeah.
And,
We've always done to varying degrees. It's just,
And again, getting back to the NewsHour, I mean, like, again, if you really wanted to understand something, like, you have to have some base of knowledge, but people are like, you know what, I'm not going to go back and read a bunch of background material to try to even understand this fucking story. I just want to be entertained. I had a hard day at work. Kids are screaming, blah, 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 whatever. I don't really, I guess this would be better for me.
Like, if you look back at the writings and the motivations behind American educators and governmental leaders up to about 1945, creating educated citizens was a huge priority for our educational system until we became a military empire, and then coincidentally, civics becomes government, and our view of government goes from being a citizenry that engages in civics to run all government to government is imposed on you from the outside,
Right. Although I'd say a lot of that is, race is so central to this story. I mean, white people are like, government is there to help people who don't look like me, blacks basically, and brown people, to get ahead of me in line or whatever, get more.
Yeah.
And that's what it is. I think so. Then they feel, as long as the government's working for them, like this carrier deal. I love this. I mean, the people are like applauding. You know, I'm like, what the fuck? I mean, this is crazy. You realize this deal, it only saved a few hundred jobs at most. They paid a shit ton of money. This is not scalable in any way. You can't do this.
Yeah, it's not going to be hard for Trump to, quote unquote, keep his promises to his base.
No, they'll believe. Well, they're primed to believe. Him.
They're totally ready to believe whatever bullshit he puts out there,
and he can blame us. He can blame people like these crazy liberal lefties, whatever. They're the cause of all these problems. I mean,
union leaders.
Even when the Nazis, it was, they started losing that war. When the Soviets turned around and started beating them at Stalingrad, whatever, and the gates of Moscow and all that. And it was inevitable they were going to lose. And yet Hitler wasn't overthrown. The Nazis weren't overthrown. Why is that? I mean, and even with all the bombing and everything, they didn't collapse. Their morale didn't collapse, and they pretty much held on. I mean, once you've bought in to a story, to a narrative, to I'm part of this greater thing that's greater than me. You don't give that up. No, you don't, and that's it. And so, I mean, but anyway, I don't think you can separate race. Yeah, I don't think empire. I mean, sure. I mean, the nation state in this country is.
Well, I mean, there was a deliberate change. I mean, like classes, civics became government class. That's a fact.
Well, that was from, McCarthy and that era. They wanted to teach anti-communism. Communism's evil. When I was a kid, I remember the world maps were colored red. The red parts were communist, basically. Do you remember those maps?
Yeah, I remember that. My hometown had a giant John Budge billboard. Unism with capital UN,
Yeah, the red parts were, and I remember that's how I thought until I got to college and grad school and really started changing my views and thinking through things. But I remember when Ethiopia and Somalia switched sides at one point, and then I remember thinking, all right, well then they're the good guys now, because that's how I had been taught. Yeah. And South Vietnam was great, and North Vietnam was evil.
Or what we're doing now in Syria, where you hear all these stories about the wonderful levels of East Aleppo, a.k.a. Al-Qaeda.
Yeah, I know. That's great. Yeah, great.
I mean, that is just fucking crazy pants. And that's who the fake news purveyors are, the people that are pointing out, this is Al-Qaeda, still Al-Qaeda,
Mm-hmm. Al-Nusra Front, whatever you call them, but yeah. That's,
Yeah, but, I mean, I don't know. I think that there's a lot of Alex Jones, there's details of Alex Jones' story to be told that I think would be good to have in your book, because I think he's a big player in Trump world, and one of the most, I mean, when you can get people to believe that the Newtown Massacre did not happen,
yeah.
I mean, this is, I've had writers for me, question me on this, and I'm like, dude, I will find a way for Vox to pay your fucking airfare to Newtown. Go there, read the autopsy reports, talk to some parents, and then fucking tell me this was fake. To get people to believe this is fake is an amazing feat of propaganda.
Mm-hmm.
And that's Alex Jones doing that, And if he can get people to believe Pizzagate, he can get people to fucking believe anything.
Well, I don't know what % of the population it is, but still, it's scary.
It doesn't have to be that many. I mean, it doesn't have to be many. I mean, they're that disconnected where that's the only thing they're believing.
Right. No, I know. I'm curious. I am just curious in and of itself, what percentage of the population.
It's a tiny percentage of people, but it's enough.
I know it's enough. Yeah, and all it takes is one guy from North Carolina with a gun or whatever to go up there.
Yeah, or Timothy McVeigh and Terry Nichols.
Right. Absolutely. So, all right. Well, really appreciate this. This has been great. Fascinating as always talking with you. I mean, and but
I'm going to be doing some moonlighting with podcasts. I want to do 5 podcasts. I want to do a music one, a sort of military one, a current. A headline news one, and I want to do one on political communication. So I'd love to have you on a few times talking about your book and talking about this shit.
Okay, cool. Well, hopefully, if I ever finish this thing.
Well, I mean, we can talk about it while you're writing it.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. So the first thing I need to do is come up with a proposal and then see if it gets accepted and then all that. Well, yeah, well, I'll be working on this over the next few weeks, month, whatever. So if you have any other thoughts, just let me know. It'd be
I mean, I'm happy to be, I'm totally happy to talk about it with you anytime.
Yeah, so...
and I launch the shows in January, so...
and then after the inauguration, we'll have plenty of time to talk about it in the re-education camp, whatever, number 278. Like whatever.
I gotta pull my fingernails out one by one. That'll be awesome.
Yeah, that's I think he's more into waterboarding. So yeah, just we'll see.
Clearly.
All right. Well, thanks for your time, and very helpful. So appreciate it.
Good thing. I look forward to continuing it. All right,
okay.
bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.